Welcome back. This video is for study section 5 on photosynthesis and translocation, pollination, respiration and energy utilization. Crop physiology, which is the study of plant processes responsible for the growth, development and production of economic yield by crop plants. In this study section, you will be introduced to what crop or plant physiology is all about, which includes photosynthesis and translocation, pollination, respiration, and energy utilization. At the end of this study section, you should be able to discuss photosynthesis and translocation, 2. Discuss pollination, 3. Describe respiration and energy utilization. Now, let's look at the learning outcome one after the other. Photosynthesis and translocation. Photosynthesis is the process by which growing plants and certain other organisms transform light energy into chemical energy. It is the process in which light energy is converted to chemical energy in the form of sugar. Photosynthesis takes place primarily in leaves. The process of photosynthesis occurs when green plants use the energy of light to convert carbon dioxide and water into carbohydrates. Photosynthesis takes place in the chloroplasts that have chlorophyll present in them. It is the chlorophyll, a photosynthetic pigment, that absorbs light energy from the sun. An extremely important byproduct of photosynthesis is oxygen, on which most organisms depend. Glucose, a carbohydrate processed during photosynthesis, is mostly used by plants as an energy source to build leaves, flowers, fruits, and seeds. Factors that influence the rate of photosynthesis are 1. Light intensity and temperature. The complex mechanism of photosynthesis includes a photochemical or light harvesting stage and an enzymatic or carbon assimilating stage that involves chemical reactions. This stage can be distinguished by studying the rate of photosynthesis at various degrees of light saturation, that is intensity, and at different temperatures. 2. Carbon dioxide, which included among the rate limiting step of the dark stage of photosynthesis are the chemical reactions by which organic compounds are formed by using carbon dioxide as a carbon source. The rate of these reactions can be increased somewhat by increasing the carbon dioxide concentration. 3 is water. For land plants, water availability can function as a limiting factor in photosynthesis and plant growth. Besides the requirement for a small amount of water in the photosynthetic reaction itself, large amounts of water are transferred from the leaves. 4 is minerals. Several minerals are required for healthy plant growth and for maximum rate of photosynthesis. Nitrogen, magnesium, calcium, and potassium are required in substantial amounts for the synthesis of amino acids, deoxyribonucleic acid and ribonucleic acid. Smaller amounts of such elements such as manganese, copper, and fluoride, which are required in photosynthesis. Number 5, internal factors. Each plant species is adapted to a range of environmental factors. Within this normal range of conditions, complex regulatory mechanisms in the plant cells adjust the activities of enzymes. Photosynthetic pigments in photosynthesis. Pigments are chemical compounds which reflect only certain wavelengths of visible light. There are 3 classes of pigments. We have 1. The chlorophylls are greenish pigments which contain a porphyrin ring. This is a stable ring-shaped molecule around which electrons are free to migrate. 2. Carotenes. Carotenes are usually red, orange, or yellow pigments, and it includes the familiar compound carotene. These compounds are composed of 2 small cis-carbon rings connected by a chain of carbon atoms. 3. Phycobilins, which are water-soluble pigments and are therefore found in the cytoplasm or in the stroma of the chloroplast. Then, translocation, which is the movement of materials from leaves to other tissues. throughout the plant. Plants produce carbohydrate sugars in their leaves by photosynthesis, but non-photosynthetic parts of the plant also require carbohydrates and other organic and non-organic materials. Mechanism of translocation 1. Cytoplasm streaming. It has been postulated that food materials are transported through the living cells of the phloem. As the cytoplasm strands in the sieve tubes move, they carry the organic solids with them upward or downward. 2. Diversion theory. In the diversion theory, it has been reported that nitrates move up in the transpiration currents, and the elaborated food materials, sugars and amino acids move down the phloem. 3. Gradient pressure. The theory states that the movement of the solvents and solids take place simultaneously at the same rate. There is an area of high turgor pressure in the leaf and an area of low turgor pressure in the leaf. Materials transported include glucose, sucrose, oil, protein, hormones, resins, and alkaloids, etc. Then we'll move on to pollination. Pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther of one flower to the stigma of the same or another flower. Types of pollination. We have 1. Self-pollination. 2. Cross-pollination. Self-pollination is the transfer of pollen grain from the anther of a flower to the stigma of the same flower. But cross-pollination is the transfer of pollen from the anther of one flower but to the stigma of another flower. Agents of pollination includes 1. Water. 2. Insects. 3. Wind. 4. Animal. Water pollination, which are common in aquatic environments, is required to carry the pollen grains to matured stigma. Flower pollinated by water is called hydrophilous flower. 2. Animal pollinations. Animals may also facilitate transfer of pollen grains. Movement of animal across woody plots make pollen grains become attached to the body. Flower pollinated by animal is called zoophilous flower. Insect pollination. Some flowers have special structure that make pollination by insects possible. Flower pollinated by insects is called entomophilous flower. The useful insects for pollination are butterfly, bees, etc. Then we'll move on to another learning outcome, which is respiration, energy utilization. Respiration is the cellular oxidation or breakdown of carbohydrates into carbon dioxide and water, and the release of energy. It is a reverse process of photosynthesis. Respiration is the process through which energy stored in organic molecules is released to do metabolic work. Types of respiration. We have aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration is a type of respiration that takes place in the presence of oxygen, and the respiratory substrate gets completely oxidized to carbon dioxide and water as the end products. This type of respiration is of common occurrence and is often used as a synonym of respiration. Anaerobic respiration is another type of respiration, but it takes place in the absence of oxygen, and the respiratory substrate is incompletely oxidized. Some other compounds are also formed in addition to carbon dioxide. This type of respiration is of rare occurrence, but common among microorganisms like yeast. So what is respiratory substrate? A respiratory substrate is an organic substance which can be degraded to produce energy, which is required for various activities of the cell. The respiratory substrates include carbohydrates, fats, organic acids, protein, etc. Carbohydrates. The carbohydrates constitute the most important respiratory substrates, and the common amongst them are starch, sucrose, glucose, and fructose. Fats. The fats are important storage food in seeds. Fats are first broken down to glycerol and fatty acid. The fatty acids are broken down to acetyl coenzyme by B oxidation. Organic acids. Organic acids are oxidized under aerobic conditions to carbon dioxide and water. 4. Proteins. Under normal conditions, proteins are used up as a respiratory substrate only in seeds rich in storage proteins. Thanks for listening. You can read more about this section in your study material. See you in the next class.